Hello and welcome to Crooked Letter Sports Podcast, a show about Mississippi sports and the folks who play them. I'm Tyler Cleveland from Scorebook Live, Mississippi, joined by my co-host, as always, Rick Cleveland of Mississippi Today. Dad, how was your weekend?
It was fine. Really good.
Yeah, nice weather. Got to play a little golf, I take it.
Yeah, watch the Braves win a bunch of games. Yeah.
Just a slew of them.
Yeah. Boy, they're really good.
I know. Fun to watch.
Speaking of which.
Right. Well, we've got a special guest in studio with us this week. We've got Federal Reserve Chair Jay Powell here with us. Jay, I joke, but your Twitter bio threw me off this morning. I was looking at it. I'm guessing you get a lot of feedback from unwanted feedback, yes. I should say.
I have really, and the last it slowed down some, I guess, since I put that on there. But for a while I was getting it. And, it's like I said, there's one lady said she was going to put a curse on me. I mean, it was just crazy stuff I was getting through my messages. And then people would tag me in things, and I would look at it and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't know why you haven't tackled inflation, Jay.
I know, I'm working on that.
But for reals, though, we've got a Mississippi baseball legend in the house, Jay Powell, obviously drafted by San Diego in 1990, a World Series champion in 97. So thanks for joining us to talk a little baseball today.
I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
I don't know how many people have won the seventh game of the World Series, been the winning pitcher in the seventh game of the World Series, but we got one in the house today.
I heard that. Somebody told me that. I was doing an interview about 2 months ago, and I've forgotten the number now. It's like 70-something, I think. So there's nothing that really, other than the title, nothing really comes with it. I have yet to really figure out what I can get from that, but it's not many of us.
They're not.
No.
Well, Jay, you're staying incredibly busy right now. I think you're on the staff at Jackson Prep for baseball and softball, correct?
Yep.
And you've doing color for Mississippi State baseball,
yep.
Radio. So obviously, not only a wealth of knowledge, but also some current events. So I can't think of a better guest to have in studio. When you came in this morning, you said it's baseball every day.
Every day.
So tell me what your routine looks like these days.
Well, it's starting Monday. We usually have a junior high game on Monday nights, and then high school Tuesday. Wednesday's about the only day for the most part, we normally don't play. And then the way they set up with conference, we play Thursday, Friday, a high school game, and then Saturday and Sunday I've been usually at State or Ole Miss or wherever they're, sometimes on the road I'll go. But yeah, it's pretty much 7 days a week baseball right now until the end of this month, and then May, and then June, depending on how far State goes, and then it's kind of a labor of love, I guess.
Well, I cover mostly MHSAA games. People ask me all the time to compare the two, and I tell them that top level MAIS is just about the cream of the crop. I mean, it is very, very good, and you're obviously involved in a lot of youth baseball. I mean, high school, college. Can you just? I mean, I've written a story about it. Rick's written a story about this Jackson Prep team. I mean, how special it is. Can you just kind of?
Well, we've had a run of really some good players. We really have, and we've been fortunate to coach them and be able to coach them. The conference we play in. It's tough. It really is. MRA's had some great players. Hartfield's got a good program. PCS now has got a really good group of young kids. I mean, there's just it's a tough conference, and I would you see that when MRA and us and whoever steps out and plays the bigger schools, the bigger baseball schools, and look, I can't thank those teams enough for playing us, because there's a lot of schools around here that won't. But some of the ones, Tupelo and Lewisburg and some of these other schools will play us, and it's been great for us, and it's great for them. It's like they say, we get a great game out of it, but it's good. I mean, and we've had a run of some really good players, and we're fortunate to coach them, and hopefully we can somewhat continue it. Losing some of the guys we've lost, obviously, it's you don't lose guys that you look around the SEC and you've got 2 out of the 3 last weekend starting rotation was in our rotation. The 2021 state championship, I always talk about it. I said, we had our two 3 starters. 2 were at Ole Miss now, one's at Mississippi State. For MRA, you had 2 kids that went to Ole Miss and one's at Southern Miss. I mean, you don't see that much in high school baseball. And so it was, there's some really good talent, and especially in the conference we play in.
Yeah. Well, on your team right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that I can't tell you when I've seen a guy who can do everything that Connor Griffin can do.
I've never seen anything like it. And the scouts asked me, who does he remind you of that you played with? And I'll just be honest with them. I said, look, I played with Hall of Famers. I played with great baseball players. I've never played with anybody that's as athletic as he is. And you look at his body and the way he's built, I've never seen anything like that. Now, does that mean he's going to be a Hall of Famer? Of course, nobody knows. But it's from a tool standpoint and a makeup. I've never seen anybody like him. And it's a once in a generational type guy for me as far as a coach. I mean, it's that special.
I think you told me, most everybody's projecting him as an everyday player because of his speed and his bat and his arm. But you think he would be a first-round draft choice as a pitcher.
I do. I really do. And, and the pitching part of it is, you look at his numbers pitching. He's pitched 58 innings, giving up 19 hits, walked 9. He's just struck out almost 100. He's, sets between 93 and 97. He's got a good slider. Changeup is developing. Of course, you can't really throw a 85-mile-per-hour changeup in high school baseball because that's a lot of times they can hit that. Yeah. But it's special. I think tomorrow if he said, I'm done with hitting, I think it would be a shot of him being a first rounder. But you look at his tools from a standpoint of an everyday player, and it's just, you don't find that. You don't find guys with the potential to do what he can do and play the middle of the infield. That's what some of these scouts are realizing now. For the last 2 years, they've just penciled him in as, no, we're going to have to move him to the outfield. He's going to be a center fielder. But now they're looking at him going, this dude can play shortstop in major leagues. And when you have a guy like that that's that athletic and can do that and potentially be a, 30, 100 type RBI, 30 home run guy, that's pretty special.
And 50 stolen bases.
Yeah.
How many? What's the number now on stolen bases? Do you know?
I think he's close to 70. And honestly, we were talking about it one day, and the guy that has the record is 100 and something from Mississippi, and it's a national record also. It's 104 or something. He said,
Billy Hamilton?
No, it wasn't Billy Hamilton. That's who everybody says.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
No, it wasn't Billy. It was a guy from back 70s or 80s, but he stole like 104. And look, I'm an old guy now. I don't want to take anything away from those guys. But it's like Connor said one day, he said, I don't know how he did that. Like, I'm stealing literally every time I get on. And he said, I'm just, and I'm looking up, I'm not going to reach that. But, back then, you never
Catchers
know.
weren't.
You get pass balls, but he's close to 70 now, I think. And it's just, he's been thrown out twice. One was on he tried to steal home, and the other one he got thrown out the other night, actually at PCS, and it was borderline. But the kid, he got a bad jump, kind of spun out a little bit. The speed's there, but he's also, and I've had the kid really since he's 11 or 12 years old, and there's never been that awkward phase. There's never been he's been a baseball guy. He gets good jumps. He gets good reads. He kind of knows what he's doing out there.
So when PCS threw him out, did they stop the game
they
and celebrate?
Fans, every time if he strikes out, they go crazy. And, and it's, I told him one day, we were talking, and he asked me, he said, why is that guy here every day, the scout? And I said, because he wants to see if you just burp. He wants to see if you burp, if you whatever. He wants to know everything about you. And they, because they're potentially supposed to put a lot of money into you, and they want to know what they're getting. But it's kind of like I compare it to the gorillas in the zoo. Everybody tapping on the glass and stuff. It's just been his season. He has been under a microscope. And the way he's handled it to me has been incredible. And he's got a good support system at home. He's got good people around him, but he is, he's handled it great.
Well, I think you got to show up every day waiting for a bad day.
It's just been, Well, and it gets to a point where now he's getting at the end of the year, and he's kind of put himself in the position he wants to be in, and it's just like he's just trying to finish it out. Yeah. And it's it can go south in a hurry if you start pressing and doing some other things. And I do think there's some of that with him. I'm sure he's pressing some, and but no, he's handled it well.
For listeners, Connor Griffin is the top high school baseball prospect in the country, for those who don't know, and plays shortstop, pitches, steals, 70 out of 72 bases. I don't know. What else can you say about him?
Yeah, he's a good one.
And he robbed a home run. We put him in center field against Hartfield, and kid hit a ball, and he takes off running and gets right back to the wall and leaps and robs it.
Can do it all.
Yeah,
can do it all.
It's pretty special.
But and a lot of people say he'll be a center fielder, but you think he...
If they ask me, which some of them do, I always say this. I tell them, I'd let him play his way out of the dirt, and I'd let him prove to me that he can't play shortstop in major leagues. I said, because that's an easy transition going from the infield to outfield. It's hard to find guys that offensively can do what he does, potentially, and defend it like he does at shortstop. And I wouldn't just throw him in the outfield real quick. I would make him play his way out of it.
Yeah.
Jay, moving from one potential first rounder from Mississippi to another, Dakota Jordan having a hell of a season at Mississippi State. We all knew it'd be good coming out of Canton Academy. The power's always been there, but I mean, to do it on the level he's doing it, I think he's slugging 800. OBP like 1,200. I mean, he's having a season,
right.
And I think he's crept up into the first round projections. I think even though he's a sophomore, I think he's 21. They're going to be 21 by the time of the draft. Can you just kind of tell me what it's been like watching him this year, and has anything surprised you?
When Dakota left Canton Academy, when last year I saw him at Canton, and I'm just, Rick's been around me for long enough. I mean, I'm an honest guy. He did not look real good. He just didn't, you looked at him and you saw, man, this dude's got every tool in the world, but something's going on. Like he just, there was times where he wouldn't run out ground balls. He just, something was going on. And when he left there and went to JA, I think, the competition got a lot better. The bell went off. He figured it out, and at JA, he was unbelievable. I mean, we started seeing now what you thought you were going to get out of it. Mm-hmm. And then he went to when he's at State. Last year he had a good year, and he's just honestly kind of continued what he was doing in high school. If you see him, he's just an incredible athlete. Jerry Neely was another one that was at Prep when I was at JA, and Jerry was to me a great athlete that played baseball. Mm-hmm. I think Dakota's a great athlete that's a baseball player, and there's a difference. And he's got some things to clean up swing-wise, there's no question. Some of his approaches offensively get skewed sometimes, but it's all there. I mean, he can defend it. He's got a great arm. He can hit. He's got tremendous power. I mean, he's a middle-of-the-lineup potential guy in professional baseball.
He's got power to all fields.
He does. And you see him sometimes at swing. I mean, it's like he just, he generates so much bat speed. And there's times where he'll catch a ball a little bit behind and he's not necessarily meaning to, but he'll hit it 390 feet to right center or 400 feet to right center. So he's got a lot of stuff going for him.
He probably would have been a hell of a football player too.
He would have been. I mean, he would have been. It's just, there's no question. But baseball's, I think, was his calling.
Yeah. This is going to be a change of pace. But when you were playing, and you came to Pearl mm-hmm. to rehab, and the manager here for the Mississippi Braves was Brian Snitker. Now, I'm sitting in Snitker's office one afternoon, and the phone rings, and it's Bobby Cox on the other line from Atlanta. And he puts him on the speakerphone so I can hear. And Bobby says, I'm calling to ask you about Jay Powell. And he said, how's he doing? And the main thing I want to know, how's he doing at holding runners on base? And Snitker said, he looked at me and said, Bobby, nobody gets on base.
You got to worry about holding them on.
Yeah, right.
Well, Snit.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a more fun manager?
He was a good one. And look, I've been, when I speak to people and baseball folks, I always say I was blessed that I played for some great managers. Hall of Fame caliber guys, and not on the field, but off the field. And Snit was one of them. When you get into Major League Baseball, so much of it is managing people, and it's and that's with being a pitching coach also. The good ones, they know what they're talking about from a standpoint of mechanics and pitches and way you work hitters and stuff like that. But so much of it is managing personalities, and when a guy gets off the rails, to get him back on quick. And Snit was outstanding at that. And it's just some guys can do it, some can't. Some try to micromanage everything and it blows up. But I had, my first year I had Renee Latchman, who was good. And then I went to Larry Dirker, who Dirk was just, after I had Latch, I actually had Jim Leland, to me, Jim's the best manager I ever played for. I absolutely loved him. Then Dirk, and Dirk was just, the thing Dirk did well was he knew he had a really good team and he just stayed out of the way. And then, Buddy Bell. Buddy Bell's one of those guys that never really had a great team in Colorado, but Buddy was a heck of a manager. Mm-hmm. Buddy was a good manager. And so then, with Bobby and Jim were a lot alike. Bobby Cox. I really like both those guys. And Snit's in that similar type deal. He trusts his players. He always has their back, and he's going to allow them to go out and play. And as a player, you feel like he's going to put you in that position to succeed. So that's all you can ask for as a player.
Do you get a chance to watch them much? The Braves?
Not much. I know they're really good, especially offensively. I really don't. Occasionally, I'll on spring training, I try to. For whatever reason, like spring training, I'll catch more games. You get in at 10 o'clock, and you just. It's very rarely do I get to watch any professional baseball.
Well, Tyler and I are so sick that we end up watching the replays sometimes of the Braves.
That's all right. If you can't get in until late, don't tell me who won, even though my phone is sending me updates every 3 innings. Right. Just try to ignore them. Yeah, they are pretty good. You are correct. But one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and it kind of touches with the Braves, is everybody knows Spencer Strider, who was arguably the most effective pitcher in baseball last year. He's on the shelf now for 15 months. And I think it's part of a bigger pandemic in baseball, which is these arm injuries to the pitchers. I know everybody's got an opinion on why there seems to be a rash. I'm not sure there's any more now than there was before, but it seems like we're seeing big names, 1 or 2 guys on every team. And now, you're in the business of protecting arms. What's kind of your take on it?
I think it's a lot of things that go into it. I said on the radio this weekend, if you're an SEC coach, you just need to know you're going to lose one of your conference starters to an injury. You need to go ahead and count on it, so you need to have a backup. I think there is more injuries. I think there's a couple reasons why, and this is Jay's opinion, so take it for what it's worth. There's a lot of guys now that's running baseball that's, quote, not baseball guys, and good or bad for whatever reason. But in the pitching standpoint, a lot of these guys are pushing velocity. They're pushing high velocity. And you see it, I see it in 6th, 7th, 8th grades now. And, the arm can only withstand so much force and torque and everything else. So you're seeing more velocity at a younger age. You're seeing more velocity training at a younger age. And the flip side of that is, and I tell my kids all the time, the ultimate judge and juror as a pitcher is a hitter. So when we're over here getting lessons and all we're worried about is seeing how hard we can throw the ball, most of the time, they got that little square out there that they're throwing it to, but most of the time they're just trying to throw it as hard as they can in that net. And every facility now has a reading. It pops up. Oh man, 75. Oh man, look, I hit 80 today. But there's no concept of where we're necessarily throwing the ball. So everything's geared toward throwing as hard as you can. So when you do that, there's no idea of how to pitch. There's no idea of location. There's no idea of command. There's no idea of changing speeds. Everything's geared to velocity. Well, then you factor in College guys now, a lot of them have gotten lazy, and all they want to do is pick up the phone, scroll through somebody's Twitter bio, look at him hitting 96 at a perfect game showcase, and they offer him. And, there's more to pitching than that. And I don't know if it'll ever change. And I look, I get it. I'm the old man that get off my lawn, stare at the clouds. I get it. But there's more to it than just seeing how hard you can throw it. So when you kind of shove that down kids' throats, and then the college guys look at that from a standpoint of that's how we're going to base our recruiting. Okay, because teaching a kid how to pitch, developing a pitcher, developing a second and third pitch takes time and coaching. In their defense, a lot of these kids don't stick around to do that. If they don't pitch right off the bat, they're out. So the kids now see velocity as a way to get to where they want to be, and the pitching coaches and the colleges are rewarding that. They're not rewarding necessarily getting outs. I mean, we've had kids that committed to schools and they can't get outs in high school baseball. So all that to say that it's kind of an epidemic of hard, throw it as hard as you can, as long as you can, and the consequences be damned. And I think that's what you're seeing. It's that kind of training from a young age on up, and it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better until they figure out ways to kind of look. I'm all for getting the most out of your body and your ability, but there's more to pitching than just seeing how hard we can throw the baseball. And when you do that, it's like redlining a car. If you're getting a Corvette and you're redlining that dude every day, it's going to blow. It's going to blow. Well, that's what these facilities and that's what these people are teaching these kids. We're going to redline this dude every day, and we're going to see how hard we can throw it. And when you get in that game, man, it's max effort. You spin that ball as fast as you can, and you're redlining every day. And at some point, something's got to give. And now, because we're doing that more and more and more, it's giving more and more and more, and you're blowing out, and it's just kind of it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. I've seen a little bit of that, what you're talking about. I was looking at part of the thing we do at Scorebook Live is put together player lists, and I was doing a list of the top 30 seniors in Mississippi a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed there was a couple of guys, because, you start with the guys that are committed. You know what I mean? Just you take a good hard look at them to start with, because obviously right. So the coach is like, and I ran across, I'm not going to name any names, but I ran across a couple of guys that had offers to some big schools that had 4.2 ERAs and, I mean, high strikeout numbers, but also high walk numbers, That's
the world we live in. And look, I love velocity. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if I didn't throw hard, I wouldn't be a Major League Baseball player. I get it. And velocity, there's a lot of things velocity can make up for. There's no question. You miss with that fastball and you're throwing 96, it's not going to get hit quite as much if you're throwing 86. I get it. I'm not stupid. But like I said, there's got to be some kind of happy medium. Mm-hmm. And some of it, the college guys are, from a coaching standpoint, they want them, they look at it as, okay, we're not going to get anything off the plate strike-wise. Forget that. We're not necessarily going to pitch to a corner anymore. We're going to spin it as hard and as fast as we can up in the strike zone and try to get fly balls and swing misses. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it's a broken system. It's a broken system, and some of it is everybody's fault, and I do take up a lot for the college guys, in the sense that they can't afford to really develop anybody anymore because they're, and I've said this, I'm getting off on the wrong area, I guess, but it's, you look at the way college baseball is set up right now. Let's take the Atlanta Braves, okay? If Austin Riley could be a free agent every year, think about that. That's where college baseball is.
Yeah.
That's with the way the NIL is set up, and it's not NIL, it's pay for play. The way that's set up, plus basically a revolving door, the transfer portal, these kids are a free agent every year. And until they do something about that, the college coaches, there's really not a sense of development. And you're going to constantly see teams come in that how y'all going to, people ask me, how's state going to be this year? I don't have a clue. I have no clue. We'll see, and we'll find out in February. It's just like Butch Thompson and Auburn. They thought they were going to have a good team this year. You don't know until you get out there, really in the SEC, because you have so many new kids coming in and out. And this kid hit 380 at Samford last year and 10 home runs. Nobody knows how he's going to do in the SEC. And it's a broken system, and I don't know how they fix it.
I'm worried that a bunch of schools are going to make coaching hires based on their ability to assemble the team. I know a lot of that was already happening, but their ability to assemble a team rather than to build that team into a championship 100%. Caliber, and then they'll fix it, and those schools will fall on their faces.
It's the way, we saw a shift 10 years ago of college baseball hiring recruiting guys, because you get the kids on campus, you win. Okay, you 100%. You load the bus, you're gonna be okay.
Been a winning recipe in football for a long, long time.
So and we saw that shift into college baseball. The head coach was just your best recruiting guy. That was the guys getting head jobs. Well, now it's becoming okay. Well, who is one kind of the best recruiting guy, but who can kind of sell the portal deal and sell this and be able to get this and that, and it's. The way this would end tomorrow, if they would just say, okay, look, you can make $100 million in NIL money if you want to. But unless your coach leaves, you're not transferring. And if you transfer, you got to sit out. We're just going to go back to the old transfer rules. You can't just jump school to school. Yeah. If they would do that, it would basically suppress some of this crazy NIL stuff, and it would keep kids from jumping to school, and that would take care of everything.
Yeah. I was shocked that they, those, I think the combination of those two, you can make as much as you want and you can transfer anywhere. It does make, I don't think there's anybody who thinks it does make sense.
They're the kids.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
The kids think it's great.
Yeah, right.
And look, I'm a professional athlete. I'm all for players getting whatever they can get. When I hear people say, hey, it's crazy to pay a coach that much. I said, well, nobody put a gun to the University of Alabama's head and make him pay. Nobody's doing, that's not the coach's fault. And it's not the kid's fault. It's just they're taking advantage of the system they're in, and you can't blame them for that.
Yeah, I knew we'd get to monetary fun before this show was over. That's wonderful. Well,
I was going to ask on the arm thing, and then James Andrews, obviously the most well-known orthopedic guy, he continues to stress that he thinks the things we're seeing with college baseball and professional baseball starts when they're 12 and 13 years old. Agree?
Yep, I 100% agree. I think it's a combination of you're seeing this from an early age. And I used to say, when we would see overuse in young athletes, and it would show up in high school sometimes. That final pitch in their junior year maybe or whatever, where they blew out. Yeah, that was what got them. But it's combination, and he's exactly right. I mean, these guys blowing out, it's not just because of that one pitch. I mean, they've been doing this, training that way, and max kind of redlining that arm for years. And it's like I said, at some point, it's got to go.
Well, and here's the thing, Jay. You had the most gruesome arm injury I've ever seen in my life. It was after you got called up to the Braves. You were getting people out, pitching the hell out of it, and then your arm just broke. I mean, how else do you say it? Do you think about what caused that?
Well, I mean, look, back in my day, but, I was in the steroid era, 100%. I mean, we had guys, it was Wild West. And I was at the age of I was in my early 30s, and I was at that point as a reliever to where, you start kind of trending downhill. My velocity had dropped, but I was learning, I was still getting out. So I was pitching, I was learning how to pitch. I was on that normal trajectory. I'd had Tommy John surgery the year before. That's when I was rehabbing in Pearl, and it was just a fluke thing. I mean, that graft where they drill the holes in the bone, basically, it kind of splintered off. And when it splintered, which it happened some, I mean, any surgery, there's a chance something's going to go wrong. Well, it splintered off. Well, my crazy thing was mine spiraled up my humerus, which is unheard of. And so my humerus basically broke. a spiral fracture. And that's, I mean, it just, look, the human body's not made to do that. And I'd thrown 500 and something games in the major leagues, not counting all the colleges and minor league stuff. And it was just said, I'm out, man. It's time.
It's the worst thing I've ever, I don't remember if you were with me. I'm sitting on my couch at home watching on TV. And when it happened, I screamed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like.
It wasn't fun.
What did it?
It's kind of one of them things. I remember I hit the ground, and I remember it like yesterday. It was a 2-1 game, playing the Pirates. I came in, I threw a backdoor slider for strike one. I was throwing a sinker down and away, and I got about right here, and it popped. The ball goes to the dugout.
Yeah.
And so I hit the ground, and the first thing I thought of is I said, I'm not going to sit around here and, flop around. So I kind of set up on my butt a little bit, and the trainer was out there by then. And I asked the trainer later, I said, what did I say? He said, you just said, man, I'm ready to go home. And I said, well, what did you say? He said, well, we got to get you off the field first. And so I get up, and I'm kind of holding my arm, and I'm walking up the tunnel, and Bobby walked me up the tunnel. And he said, I swear it's the first ball you've thrown since you've been here, kind of light in the moment. And we get back to the training room, and I said, "What?" And I was kind of thinking shock a little bit. And I said, "What's happened? What's happened?" And he said, "Well, we're going to X-ray you real quick." They had an X-ray machine there, and he said, "We're going to X-ray you real quick." And I said, "Okay." So you got to straighten your arm. I said, "I ain't straightening this arm." And so, of course, they give me some medicine, and I'm ready to go back and pitch at that point. And so I straightened it out, and they X-rayed it, and they come back in there. And they said, buddy, they said, Jay, you broke your arm. I said, well, what does that mean? He said, it means you're going to the hospital. And I remember Smoltzy was in there with me, and because I just got called up. I really didn't know a lot of these guys. But he was in there with me, and my wife actually had left because I'd gotten loose in the 8th and didn't go in. And she had kids with her and all that. She said, well, he's probably not going to pitch tonight, because they really hadn't been using him as a closer. So they had left and heard it on radio and turned around and came back. And so they took me to the hospital, and they basically, it was Friday night, and they said, look, Dr. Rawley's are going to do surgery on you. And they got Dr. Andrews on the phone Friday night. And he said, look, Jay, you've got a spiral fracture. And he said, I'll do whatever you want to do. Because he had done 3 surgeries on me already. And he said, but you need to let Dr. Girardi do it because he's a Falcons team doctor, and he sees a lot of that spiral fracture in football. But he said, if you want to come back here, we'll do it Monday. He said, you let me know. And I said, well, I trust you, So I sat there with a spiral fracture and a splint Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And by this time, I still had my uniform on Saturday morning, basically, by the time I got back because we were in a hotel. We just got there. So I remember, I'm 6'5", 230, trying to get in a bathtub, and prop my arm up. And I just remember sitting down, and I could feel the bones rubbing because one of the bone would go up, one would go down, and we kind of sponged off. And they did the surgery. It was a 4-hour surgery. They did the surgery Monday afternoon, and Tuesday morning, Dr. Chandler came in, who was one of the Braves doctors, and he talked to me. He said, well, you know what I'm supposed to tell you. I said, Doc, look, I'm not thinking about playing again. I said, I want to be able to, I want to coach one day. I want to throw batting practice. I want to throw with my kids. I just want to live a normal life. He said, well, I think you're going to be able to do that. He said, but I just don't see it ever playing again. So he said, but you got to rehab it like you're going to come back. Well, and I'll get to, we fast forward about a year later, Coach Polk calls me. He's like, Jay, we got an alumni game. I said, Coach, yeah, okay. I need you to pitch an inning. I said, Coach, I can't. I need you to pitch an inning. I said, the last time I was on the mound, I broke my arm. He said, oh, you'll be all right. And I'm like, so I go out there, and I did. I threw an inning. And so that kind of got me thinking a little bit. And I needed something. Like I needed closure, basically, because I was at that point. I didn't really know what to do. I hadn't officially retired, but I've been out about a year. The Braves were great. They were like, look, if you want to coach, if you want to try to rehab this, we'll do whatever you want to do. So that fall, I went to see Dr. Andrews, and I called him, and I called him on a cell phone, and he said, come see me. So I went in there, and I just told him, I said, Doc, I got to figure some things out in my life. And I said, I need some percentages. Like, what is the chance I could do this? And he said, if you're going to do it, And he said, I know you, and if anybody can do it, you can do it. He said, but I'm just going to be honest with you. He said, the first thing we got to do is do another Tommy John. He said, because they just sutured that back down. You'd have to redo the ligament. So he said, you're looking at a year out from that. And he said, you're probably got about a 20% chance of getting back to kind of the level to where you can get major league hitters out. And out of that 20%, you probably got about a 10% chance of being able to maintain it for any substantial period of time. But he said, this is unknown. This is uncharted territory, what you're going to try to do. And I just, at that point, my dad had actually gotten cancer. And I mean, it was, I always say it's kind of God's will, because it gave, he and I we had a good relationship. We were never real close. But it gave he and I a chance for the last 2 years of his life to kind of, be home for once for me. And it was time, and at that point I just, and I did, I went back through bullpens and tried to do some stuff, and I could probably get back to 90. But I mean, for 3 days after that, I couldn't brush my hair hardly. And it just, I knew, and it was time. And I had some other opportunities. My youngest son was born, and I was like, it's time for me to be home.
Well, Mississippi's better off for it. Glad to have you back here.
I guess so. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you being here, Jay.
Absolutely.
Enjoyed
it.
We could go on for several more.
Easy. I got questions at the yin yang. We're out of time though, guys. I really, Jay, really appreciate it, and good luck to you in the playoffs here.
Well, I appreciate it. We got I think we're gonna have a bye next week, and then we'll get going.
All right, buddy.
Awesome.
Thank y'all.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next week. Stay safe out there if you're traveling. Be sure to keep up with all of the latest Rick's writings over at MississippiToday.org, and you can check out all of the baseball playoff coverage at scorebooklive.com/Mississippi. Have a good one, everyone.